Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Well, a few videos back, maybe a month or so ago, I did a video where I was talking about the new to me Lumix GX9 and bought this used from one of the online dealers. I think it was KEH. But I also bought the 12 to 32 millimeter Pancake zoom lens. Also bought this used, but this is like a like-new copy. And it kind of brings me back to how I started in Micro Four Thirds, which is coming up on like 10 years ago, which is frightening, to be honest. But I was a Canon shooter. I was kind of moved out of doing professional photography, and I really wanted to get something small and compact, but still have interchangeable lenses. Wasn't that interested in the Canon M cameras. I didn't see that those had quite the lens selection that you get with Micro Four Thirds. And so I bought a GX85, bought it new, and it came with the 12 to 32 millimeter lens. And I took that camera with me on business trips. I had a multi-state territory, mostly in the Midwest. Worked for companies variously based in California, one company based in Asheville towards the end of my career. That was not a fun experience except for being able to go to Asheville. It was just nice to have a camera this size with a relatively large sensor that gave me the results that I got out of that, even with a 16 megapixel sensor on the GX85. But you got to remember, it had no anti-moire filter over the sensor. I mean, there was no kind of diffusion over the sensor, so it produced very, very sharp images, which I'll show a bunch of these at the end of my my talky part here. But yeah, carried it on business, really enjoyed using it, ended up eventually getting the 20 millimeter f1.7 Pancake Prime, again a wonderful lens, and also the 45 to 150 telephoto zoom, which of course is a 90 to 300 millimeter equivalent. And I carried that kit around with me, as I say, on business, and got just a lot of pretty nice images, which I put up as stock on Alamy, and they still sell to this day. So pretty cool. Kind of sad I got rid of those GX85s. I actually ended up with two of those. Long story. Maybe if somebody asks me in the comments, I'll explain. So this sort of is, as I said back in that video, kind of camera nostalgia. But I really like being able to take this camera out when I don't want to carry, even a G9 Mark II with me, because there is quite a bit of difference here. By the way, nothing wrong with well, I shouldn't say nothing wrong with, but you can put this lens, this little Pancake lens, you can pop it over here onto the G9 Mark II or the original G9, and it'll turn this into kind of way more compact than it is with this kit Lumix 12 to 60. But you got to remember, this is not a weather sealed lens. The Lumix 12 to 60 and the Leica 12 to 60, actually the Leica is freeze proof. I think that's kind of silly because I've used cameras in the cold when it's really, really cold prior to anybody thinking of making them freeze proof. But there's no gasket on the lens mount side of this lens, whereas there is on the 12 to 60. And therefore, if you've got a weather sealed body like the G9 or G9 Mark II, you want to be careful about using a lens like this if you're going out into the elements, because it will leak through here, and you don't want to have that happen to your nice expensive camera that otherwise would be weather sealed. Panasonic made a kind of a companion lens to this. So being a 12 to 32, of course that's 24 to 64 millimeter full frame field of view equivalent. But they also made a 35 to 100 f4 to 5.6, which was not quite as compact, but still very small. I never used it, but all the reports that I've seen on the internet is that that is a very sharp lens. But don't know, I haven't even checked to see if that's still available. But I I didn't buy that lens. I got the 45 to 150 instead because the 45 to 150 was actually less expensive. And I kind of wanted that extra reach going out to 300 millimeter equivalent rather than 200 millimeters. And the 45 to 150 is really not that. I mean, it's still a really relatively compact lens. Now, interestingly, if you're following the L-mount stuff, you know that Lumix released a kit lens for the S9, and it's an 18 to 40 millimeter lens. Not very fast. f4.5 at the wide end and f7.1 maybe at the long end, but you know, full frame. You got all that ISO headroom to save you. But this lens seems to be the inspiration for that, although the 18 to 40 does have a focus ring, which this does not. So there's that. But it got me to thinking what Panasonic Lumix might want to consider doing is also designing a compact telephoto, kind of maybe equivalent to the 35 to 100 for the Micro Four Thirds cameras. Wouldn't have to be even as fast as that given full frame, high ISO headroom. So that would be interesting to see, because that would make, I mean, you could pop that 18 to 40 on the S9 Mark II, which I'm currently filming on, and if you had a compact, 70 to 200, or maybe even a 50 to 200, something compact though, that would make these cameras very travel friendly. People who follow me know that I did get the Sigma 20 to 200 millimeter lens to use on my S5 Mark II, mainly for photojournalism, but that's a heavy lens. And so when it comes to going and traveling, I probably would lean towards the G9 Mark II with maybe the 14 to 140. But it is an interesting time to be a photographer, especially if you're in the Lumix system, whether you're in Micro Four Thirds or the L mount. So anyway, to summarize, this little lens just punches way above its weight. And if you have a GX camera, or you buy one used, this is the perfect lens for that. You know, the interesting thing is that when the GX9 came out here in North America, and I don't know if this was true in the rest of the world, they didn't supply this lens, the 12 to 32, as the kit lens. They supplied the 12 to 60 as the kit lens, which is fine. You do get that extra reach, and you do have weather sealing, which of course the body isn't, so it doesn't really matter that much. But boy, it just takes this little nice compact thing here and, adds a lens that big onto it. So if I'm going to use a 12 to 60, I'm going to use a bigger body. But pop it on one of these GX9s and you just have really a great travel camera. You have a great street camera, and even landscapes and nature. If you want to go on a hike and not carry a lot of weight, boy, you could take this, the 45 to 150, have this around your neck. It's not going to weigh you down that much. Have your 45 to 150 in your backpack, and you're probably set for almost anything you're going to run into on a hike. That's it for now. I'm going to run a slideshow so you can check out those images. And this, they're images I took during my business travel days, for the most part. You may recognize some of these places. Funny thing is, when I was compiling this slideshow, there were a couple of these images that I was looking at, and I was like, I don't even remember where that is. And I really had to kind of look at the image and kind of figure out where I was when I took the image. It'd be good of me to actually caption the keyword all my images, but I'm not real good about that. So if this was interesting and useful to you, hit the like button. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. I'm going to roll a slideshow, and I'm Todd Banner. I will see you in the next video.